the honor of meeting Bernie at the barbershop. We share the same barber in New York. And my barber was like, yeah, man, I know Bernie, you know, Bernie comes by here all the time. I'm like, Bernie Williams does not come by. You crazy, man. That's Bernie Williams, man. That's 51, dog. You know Bernie Williams? That's Bernie Williams. Pasa por aquí todo rato. Bernie pasa. Wasn't Bernie here a couple of weeks ago? Yeah, man, Bernie was here. I said, you got to stop lying, man. My Bernie Williams is not going to come by this little barbershop, please. And I swear to you, in through the door comes Bernie Williams. and normally I'm picky about the cut. I'm like, get off. That's Bernie Williams. But he was so, you know, like normal, chill. Hey, how are you, man? Hey, you busy? I'm like, Papa, I'll get off the chair right now. You can have it.
I know, because listen, a mí me dieron mucho de la chancleta y la correa. I was not a well-behaved child.
Oh, who you telling? A mí me sacaron del parque jugando basketball a chancletazo limpio.
There you go.
And I had one of those typical moms que te decía, te dije que llegara a las 7 de la noche. Exactly. Ahora, súbete para arriba. And every time she mentioned a word, there was a chancletazo with that one behind it.
That's right.
There's great artists, and I'll just say kind of in the rap world, just for example, there's great artists that are great in the genre. Then there's special artists, the truly greats, that move the culture and move their fan base forward with them. So Bad Bunny is not just like the best in the game, but he's changing the game. Because what I think, to your point, Tanya, what this album is doing, his new music is doing, is maturing his audience. And he's pushing us to go along on his personal journey and his artistic journey. So y'all need to catch up. And
my bad. She messed my hide up, right? Because I was high on marijuana. So I was like, she just messed my hide up. And I just felt that every word that came out of her mouth, she was directing it at me. So when she was done, you know, I asked her like, yo, what can I do? I'm doing life. I'm from New York, you know, and she said, you could be my source, which I didn't even understand what source meant at the time. But then she said, you could be the voice for the voiceless. And that's what clicked.
I got a few questions for you, okay? I've been dying to ask a Puerto Rican chef que wears a Puerto Rican hat, got cuatros in the background, got a flag. You represent, okay. Okay, here we go. Ready? Pastelillo de guayaba, con queso o sin queso?
Sin queso.
Thank you. Oh my God. Where the church
sin queso.
When they put queso in that, yo me pongo tan malo. Why are you putting queso, man? I said guayaba. I don't need queso. You know what? Use that space and put more guayaba. Okay.
That's it.
Pastele. ¿Con ketchup o sin ketchup?
Con ketchup.
This is my man, yo.
We love you.
Esperamos que les hayan gustado estas alternativas y no olvides seguirnos en nuestras redes sociales, en Instagram como Cultura Activa PR y en Facebook como GCL Foundation. Recuerda que nosotros somos Cultura Activa PR.
When you came out in the scene, that was really such our generation contributing to the culture and history of salsa was so important to me. And, you know, you were such a big part of that. And then to meet you and find out you're a real person and you're a class act in every way, and actually then really care about things. And we connected on that level around society and the world. So you've been such a great representation. I remember when you went on Christina's show as a young guy, And our, most of the New Yorkers, we speak Spanish, but not that good. And they were floored how good your Spanish was.
The world, you got Joe Budden, you got
Nori in Miami. Yeah.
La gente no sabe que es Boricua. I love you for that, Ray, because you're just as much hip hop as you are Latin. And
started when I was 17 years old. So essentially, I went to, I was on tour as a young girl. I grew into adulthood through freestyle music. And not only did I do that, I did that with fans who did that with me. So I still am in touch with fans that I have been friends with, went from fans to friends to family even since 1986. So it gives me a purpose. It gives me a purpose and a sense of pride to be able to share my culture, my music, my personality, myself, my love, everything with the fans that I think of this genre that are just the most amazing fans.
Mira, I had the honor of meeting Bernie at the barbershop. We share the same barber in New York. And my barber was like, yeah, man, I know Bernie, Bernie comes by here all the time. I'm like, Bernie Williams does not come by. You crazy, man. That's Bernie Williams, man. That's 51, dog. You know Bernie Williams? That's Bernie Williams. Pasa por aquí todo rato. Bernie pasa. Wasn't Bernie here a couple of weeks ago? Yeah, man, Bernie was here. I said, you got to stop lying, man. My Bernie Williams is not going to come by this little barbershop, please. And I swear to you, in through the door comes Bernie Williams. and normally I'm picky about the cut. I'm like, get off. That's Bernie Williams. Pero he was so, like normal, chill. Hey, how are you, man? Hey, you busy? I'm like, Papa, I'll get off the chair right now. You can have it.
Is coming back. Welcome, family. This is Ray Collazo, the host and founder of Bomba Live and all kind of things. El hijo de Sonia, all kind of things. Thank you all for joining. Please share this. I'm in my Charlie Rose black studio. For the people watching on Instagram, like Enrique and Kat and Jerry, they're seeing the green screen I have. So they're seeing sort of, they're peeling behind the curtain, if you will. But I'm just kind of playing around here. Happy 2023. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And I know for a few of you, they're like, where have you been? We haven't seen Bomba Live. We haven't seen Found Translation. We haven't seen you doing this kind of stuff. There's been some reasons. And this has been 2022 was an incredible year. I'm very grateful for the challenges and all the blessings that I had. That's part of what I'm on here for, is to try to get back in the swing and catch up a few of you all and just kind of test some of the new toys. I'm for our Instagram IG Live followers. Thank you so much for joining. I'm the host, Ray Collazo, Bomba Live, and Found Translation and a few of the different content platforms that we've developed over the years. I'm sort of a serial podcaster. It will be my 10th year anniversary on Easter Sunday this year of podcasting. And so just really blessed to be able to have found this platform and be in the modern technological age where you don't have to get paid by a radio station or a television station. You can just turn these things on and we can get cooking and have a lot of different conversations. Again, for those particularly on Instagram Live that maybe not as familiar with my content, I have had a sort of a winding road, as my good friends know. When I started 10 years ago, audio only, it was very kind of like personal development oriented and kind of talking to my friends and getting away from my day work as the political director for a national Hispanic organization, and kind of getting into kind of more kind of peeling the layer behind what drives some of my friends to success and overcome challenges, and to just be inspirational, be positive. And then 2016, when I was getting, for obvious reasons, when I was getting a lot of, well, Ray, what's going to happen stuff, the Found Translation brand really morphed into more of a political talk show format. And that's also kind of roughly around where live streaming and, kind of doing this on video became more in vogue. If folks remember Blab, there may be one or two of you old enough to remember that platform was sort of a precursor to how we use Zoom now in many ways, and how we use other platforms like I'm using now in StreamYard. And you may be watching this on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, which you can find Bomba Live on as well, YouTube, and of course I'm also on this. I'm also on Instagram, on IG here, and Perfectinize Linmatis. Thank you all for joining. We really appreciate being on all these different platforms. Please put a comment. Let me know you're here, you're watching. I know it's 10 o'clock on the Carlos Phoenix. Good to see you here, brother. And my buddy Angel chimed in on the great Guayaba sin queso con queso debate earlier. Thank you, brother. Always good to see. I know you're going to be doing some big things in the wrestling world in San Antonio very soon. So please support anytime Angel Hernandez Rivera from San Antonio, my great brother out there, along the river walk, if you will, in the beautiful the Alamos City. Shares what he's up to, going for his dream to be a wrestling manager. So really excited while he's becoming, the wrestling world is shaken up. Would love to know Angel's thoughts on Stephanie McMahon. I saw left the company today after her dad incredible return. So a lot going on in wrestling, but nevertheless, again, this is Ray Collazo, the founder of Bomba Live, and like I said, a serial broadcaster, podcaster. And so I'm really grateful to be here. I wanted to share with people that, this was by far the most challenging year I had with my health. I've always been, despite not having the best habits, I've been a fairly healthy person in my life. Never had to spend a night in the hospital, never broke a leg, never broke a limb, right? Never broke a bone. And thank goodness, knock on wood, fairly healthy. And I woke up in late April of last year, and my hands felt numbing. And I went to go wash my hands, and what was room temperature water felt ice cold. Then I jumped in the shower, and what felt like room temperature water was actually scalding hot and burning me. Hola, Grace. I need to talk to you, Grace. I really need to talk to you. I want to go visit you very soon in New York City, and we have a lot to catch up on. Grace Bonilla, one of our great leaders, chimes in. Always an honor to be connected with Grace. In all seriousness, Grace, you've been on my mind. I need to connect you very soon. I want to go visit you and all the great things you're doing there with the United Way in New York City. So I felt like this dull thing in my head. Grace, listen to the story. So long story short, my symptoms gradually increased, and within 8 days, I couldn't walk because this nerve damage that 8 days later, I found out was due to Guillain-Barré syndrome, burns the tips of your nerves. And I couldn't walk for 3 days of my life. And you talk about some of the scariest, really 5, 6, 7 days of my life. First of all, being in excruciating pain until I got treated, and not knowing if these legs are going to walk or are going to be useful anytime soon. Eliana Burgos Serrano chimes in, my insurance gal. And if you're in New Jersey or are part of Eliana's network, I encourage you to tap into her insurance and medical health insurance services. She's the bomb and one of our great supporters of Bomba Live and a great friend. And her mother also makes incredible desserts. So if you can bribe her for her mom to hook you up, I think that's a wise investment of time. Flora Montes on the IG chat also chimes in. So long story short, I had Guillain-Barré. And the good news about Guillain-Barré syndrome is that as long as your body takes the treatment, which most people take it's an IV treatment you have to take for a week, then it stops. So it stops frying your nerves, and it no longer makes it any worse. Now, of course, people have other symptoms, and then basically it takes about a year to recover fully. So I was in the hospital 3 weeks. I was have spent the last several months rehabbing. And so that involves a lot of physical therapy, a lot of patience, You have your backs and forths, so I was used most of the summer I was using canes and even walkers, depending on what kind of walking or what kind of surface I was on. And then I was actually kind of going backwards. I was using the walker more by midsummer and really had to kind of make a personal decision about how to deal with it. And the long and short of it is that the more I exercised outside of rehab, physical therapy, going to the gym, and just putting in an honest hour as best I could. Nothing, no CrossFit stuff. Then by Labor Day, I didn't need a cane, and so really that really kind of was a big turning point psychologically. But I've had some setbacks along the way. I ain't gonna lie. There's days that, like I'd say, over the last month, my legs have not been what they were 6 weeks ago. So they're sore and you're walking funny. But I'm extremely lucky that that it wasn't MS. It wasn't anything that will likely have longer term ramifications. So I'm really, really lucky. So I'm hobbling around a little bit at times, but needless to say, that's kind of slowed me up a little bit. So part of the reason you haven't seen me on here as much is that I've been trying to heal and really trying to figure out not only what this process means for me, but how I can do this in a bigger way. And that's been kind of one of my challenges. What's incredible about the timing of it, and I think Ileana knows this story. I don't think Grace knows this story, and whoever else is watching, Chrissy Vega on IG Live. I'm messing around, Chrissy. I'm just I'm getting back in the swing here. I'm telling people my Guillain-Barré story. Chrissy, a great, who's part of the next part of this story I'm going to tell. And also is one of the people that went to go see me in the hospital during my time in the hospital. So literally the weekend before, I'm going to tell y'all, there's only 3 or 4 of you. I'm going to tell you the little backstory here, the whole story. Literally the weekend before it happened to me. That happened to me on a Tuesday. That Saturday or that Friday, I went into with Chrissy and another person I'm going to mention here in a second. I went into a full-fledged television studio and recorded 3 episodes, like a television version of my talk show. And the person that agreed to do the pilots with me was someone you've seen on Mumble Live, one of the sort of our celebrity guests, Betty D from Sweet Sensation. And Chrissy Vega was part of the show as well as a co-host. And so it was really awesome. And anyone wants to see it, I think I've sent it to some of y'all. We have 3 episodes. I'll send them to you so you can see them. It was really cool. It was really neat. I've teased some of the set design on social media if you're paying close attention. And, it was like really cool to do it in the television studio. And, I left that experience, knowing I could do it in that way. And, sitting in your basement is one thing, but being in a television studio and people have cameras and people are talking here is a different experience. I ain't gonna lie. But I think Chrissy would agree. She was there. That we could do this, and we can do this sort of on another level. And I got that opportunity February of 2020, going on MSNBC. If anyone watching remembers that, some of you probably do. And had the opportunity to sort of spit my game on a national cable news show. And that proved to me that I could do it. And I could do it for real. And I'll share this with you, that when I got off the show, and Al Sharpton was doing the show Después, so we had to get off the stage real quick because there's only 2 minutes in between shows and commercials and all that. So I said, "What's up to Reverend Al?" And I had to get moving. The weekend producer from MSNBC at the time pulls me aside and says, "You were really good." I think she used the word better than that. Like, you were great. Like, she was very effusive. Like, you killed it. And would you mind coming once a month? So I was like, I'm down. And, it was VIP. You know what I mean? They get you the train ticket, and they put me in a limo. Those 8 blocks from Penn Station to 30 Rock. You know what I mean? And I was like, I'm on my way. And sure enough, a month later, she called me and said, "No, we want you on this weekend to talk about whatever que está pasando la política. Está bien, no problem." And then COVID happened. And literally they had to cancel that appearance because that's when COVID blew up. And they don't call me. They didn't call me. They said, don't call us. We'll call you because for the foreseeable future, we're going to have to talk to doctors and germologists and nurses and things like that. So, fast forwarding. So that's why I haven't seen MSNBC lately. But I think part of what also the reason I haven't pushed it is I've had to get my stuff together. COVID was tough, like it was for everybody. And definitely was a setback health-wise in terms of, not getting exercise and gaining weight, and you're getting older and you don't feel the same confidence in yourself. And then I was getting it together and did the pilot, and, I'm going to do our own thing. And then I got this, could walk for a minute. So it's been an interesting journey, an interesting year. And in the middle of all this, professionally, I'm the political director for the largest Hispanic civil rights organization in the country. And I run its PAC now. So I do the political stuff, like the partisan stuff. And that's a separate entity. That's a whole separate job I got on top of what I do day to day. And, elections happen on even years. So I had to kind of, after the 2 months I took off from work to recover, I had to get it. I was a little behind with getting ready for the elections in fundraising and organizing and all the stuff that you have to do. So knock on wood, I had enough strength and had built a little bit of a capacity with hiring consultants and stuff to be ready to have a good year. And I think we did some really good work, particularly in Arizona and Nevada with those Senate races and those Secretary of State races, that we were able to push back and make sure two of the nut jobs that wanted to basically were running to dismantle our democracy in those states lost, and two good, not just Democrats, but two good people who happen to be two Latino males, Adrian Fontes and Cisco Aguilar. Cisco, I know very well, personal friend, pulled it out. And democracy is holding, I wouldn't say by the skin of teeth, but, by some nails. So, that takes up a lot of time, especially when you're not 100%. And I'm still not 100%. I'm close, but not 100%. And so that's what I've been up to. And that's part of why this personal journey I've been going through my health challenges. And this feeling, I want to do it better. And I want to, once you get a taste of the TV thing, it's tough to go back to your basement. And so trying to figure out how to develop the infrastructure to do that kind of on a more regular basis is what I've been really trying to figure out particularly over the last few months, that now I can see the light at the end of this health journey, right? But you get in your late 40s, the health journey doesn't stop. You know what I mean? As a few of y'all may be attest to. I know there's a lot of young people watching, but a few of y'all may attest to that. So I would say that so that's what I've been up to. And so what I've been doing over the last 10 days is kind of re-getting my personal studio together and playing with a few new toys in terms of some of the technological stuff that makes it a little more fun to do this. And just getting back into it a little bit. So more to come. And but I did want to kind of let people know what's up, because there's only one moment. I could always speak. And I guess for me, as long as I can communicate, I feel okay. I have some levels gonna be all right. And at one point, even though I was in incredible pain, my back, oh my God, I wouldn't wish that back pain. I had back pain for 2-3 days in this process. I wouldn't wish on anybody. And there's all kind of pains and issues that happen when you get Guillain-Barré. And well, think about it. Nothing works. Nothing works. So you can imagine. It's your nerves. Kind of controls everything. So, but the only time, at one point, the respiratory doctor came in and said, well, basically in so many words, like the only way this can kill you is if it gets to your lungs. So we got to make sure it don't get to your lungs. And so, that's the only time where it crossed my mind, like, could this be it in this whole process? Thank God it was only a fleeting moment where I thought that way. But it's, and I know, scary, those moments, right? And but just really fortunate that, we're fortunate to have health care, and we're fortunate. I'm presuming this for the people watching this right now, that we have flexibility at work. My job was just incredibly good to me, in terms of time, in terms of support, in terms of, hey, there was no income setback, and also very blessed. I live around which is a whole other story. I live around a construction site at the moment, and I look at these construction workers and these guys doing, putting up roofs, and there's a few Guatemalan women to do the drywall in the neighborhood. So I see them every day. And I see these Brazilian guys that do the labor part. It's like every ethnic group has a different role. There's a Puerto Rican guy that digs the holes. He's the guy with that machine and the digger. And what's up, Jersey Rican? What's up, Pop? Just catching up people on my life, Jersey Rican. If you're not following that brother on social media, you need to. He's one of the most impactful. Thank you, Teresa. I really appreciate that. Thank you. One of the most impactful social media influencers. He's very funny. And I tell Jersey Rican, he's just an incredible talent, because there's very few urban Latino men, especially urban Puerto Rican men, that can be funny and impact and thoughtful in otro idioma from like an urban Latino perspective. I appreciate that brother so much, him and Funky Bacalao and all my Puerto Rican social media buddies that I don't want to say I discovered, but I started putting them on here early on. And now they're all just like Humongous Dean and Senior Edison and all Jersey and the whole crew, Eva Lisa. They're all just like blowing up. They're all just going to be multimillionaires, and I hope they all make all the money. But I lost my train of thought. But basically, it's been a hell of a ride, and I'm just really fortunate, that I had the ability. What I was going to say was, in the position I was at, I wasn't going to be able to put up any drywall. So my point is, I think about the working people that wouldn't have had the same flexibility that I had, and the luxury to have the time to take care of myself and not physically strain myself and have to make that decision, like, do I go back to work and put myself in peril or setbacks? I had that privilege, and so I don't take that lightly. And I'm just really grateful, really, really grateful. And I think all of y'all are grateful. I know that we've really built here, on my humble social media platforms, a community of really positive people, and people that, including Jersey and Ileana and Grace and all of y'all watching, Angel that was on earlier, Chrissy, that we're about something, and we want to have fun. We want to celebrate our culture, but at the end of the day, we want to leave a positive influence, Gar Sabor, in the world. And I think ultimately that's what attracts people to what we do. So I really appreciate that. In terms of the there's a lot of stuff to talk about, the political stuff. I think that the bottom line is that it's so interesting, because on one level, I think about just how far we've come, like just big picture. And I'm saying this from a Latino perspective and a people of color perspective. And Grace, I'd love to pick your brain on, when you come on the show, we're gonna have this conversation, Grace. Because I appreciate your perspective on it. But when I got in the game in the mid 90s, if you had told me it wasn't that long ago from then where California was purple. Like California was purple to like the late 80s, maybe. I mean, Reagan was the governor at one point, and they had moderate Republicans running the state all the time back then. So if you think about from there, what has happened, how the Democratic Party has been saved in many ways. obviously black voters being the base. I'm not trying to dismiss that or take away from that. But thinking about how California, New Mexico was purple back in the days. That wasn't even that long ago where that was a toss-up state in presidentials. Then Colorado, then Nevada, then Arizona. Because not just because of the Latino vote, but in large measure because of the Latino vote. Have become a blue wall or a blue, those states are somewhere between deep blue and bluish purple. That's quite, in a generation of work, that's quite an accomplishment. And there's lots of reasons for that. And we've talked about that, and kind of, particularly in places like Arizona and in California, being a reaction to anti-immigrant, anti-Latino rhetoric and policies by Republicans that thought that was going to be winning politically. And in cases of places like Nevada and New Mexico and Colorado, I think it's been more just a maturation of an investment, a little more of a local investment in Latino outreach. So, but that's really exciting. And to think that even today, thinking about the fact we have a Black Asian woman vice president, an African American leader of the Democratic House, Democratic Congress, members of Congress. We have minority leader, I guess is his term. We have a Puerto Rican woman doing Sonia on the Supreme Court. Ketanji, a Black woman in the Supreme Court. There's a lot of positives. But en la misma vez, and again, this is another part of the conversation I want to have with Grace at one point on the show, is that we're seeing from this latest announcement from President Biden on how they're going to handle the border and the flow from the southern border and the flow from Latin America and the Caribbean and that situation, that, at the end of the day, you can argue the merits of how they're trying to thread this needle. But at the end of the day, the Democratic Party is still, on a national level, risk averse, to put it kindly, about really going to the wall for people of color. Now, you can argue maybe they're more, willing to do that for African Americans. I mean, you're seeing that in representation, right? With some of those very important positions I just talked about. But, they're still very, leery of kind of looking like they're blatantly trying to help us and support us, even though si nosotros tan pelado. So that's it's an interesting place to be politically, I think. And, we'll have more time to have this conversation, hopefully, as we get our stuff together here. But that the electorate has gone, the Latino electorate, since I was a kid in the 80s, when we had enough polling or data to kind of track this kind of stuff, the Latino electorate nationally has always been somewhere between 2/3 and 2-to-1 Democrat, 3-to-1 Democrat, kind of at its peak, like when the Clintons were at their most popular, and Obama, it was more like 3-to-1. But there were times where it's closer to 2-to-1. Bush, even Reagan back in the days, Republicans from big Latino states skewed that, I think. But, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And so now we're in an era, even though it's weird, because even though we're in an era where the national Republican leadership is as conservative as ever and as blatantly racialized as ever, we're 2-to-1 now. We just saw that the last 2 cycles. And so what's that about? So there's some internalized racism there. There's some, I'm tired of the Democratic Party there. There's some misinformation there. There's some, wow, Democrats are real bad at organizing there. And just not, so there's a lot there. And we have to kind of talk about that. And I have some thoughts on it. But it's a really interesting place to be. But at the same time, look at what we've done, in terms of coño, we want to save the Senate again in Arizona and Nevada. And, we Granito aquí in Pennsylvania for Fetterman. So it's really interesting. The political stuff's really interesting. I think on the pop culture side of things, the culture lifestyle, la cosa de la fama and all that, I want to do more of that. And Chrissy knows that we did a lot of that on the pilots that we taped. And I've been where I haven't been on here, I've been studying. Trust me, I've been studying. Is that it's really incredible how while the politics for us is a dogfight, we have, kind of without a lot of fanfare, kind of are taking over the culture. And so there's the obvious stuff, the Bad Bunny effect. And I got all kind of thoughts on it, believe it or not. And I'm going to be posting some content on some of those issues soon. Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff we don't even think about. Like if you, think about it on the English side, who are some of the biggest pop stars? The Becky G's, the Selena Gomez's, it just sort of Camila Cabello, who's just, that's in a sense who were the more niche dance pop freestyle artists of the day are now, those Latinas are now just like big pop stars that have which a big chunk of their audience is Latina. So, and that's just kind of like, oh, that's happening. We don't think about it a lot, but it's making a big impact on, our culture. And it's interesting how from a Puerto Rican perspective, el movimiento urbana, música urbana, and I know most of us just focus on Bad Bunny, and he's obviously he's kind of almost bigger than a genre of music at this point. He's kind of, it's like Michael Jackson back in the days. He's kind of like his own industry. And then there's reggaeton. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, it's Michael Jackson and there's R&B music. It's not really, he's kind of even beyond like a title, bigger. He's at his own industry, but, what these Estos Chamaquitos have produced on the island in terms of business development, in terms of impacting literally the language of Latin America. And there's been some scholarship around how this music is impacting the colloquialisms of people in other countries, because now they're all talking like Puerto Ricans. And that's those kind of social movements are very powerful. And we've seen with Residente and even Bad Bunny, they've impacted the politics of some of these countries, including Puerto Rico, Rica Renuncia being an obvious example. So I think that's something that I like to kind of keep in the mix. And I think one of the things what's going to be really exciting about the content we're going to produce here moving forward is that I think we're in a unique, I don't want to say unique, well, I think unique in a sense that most of the commentary around what this música urbana movement means to the Puerto Rican community, to the Latino community, to Latin America, to the world, to the music industry, blah, 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 either happens in Spanish, whether it's in Puerto Rico, whether it's in U.S. Latino market or Latin America. And it's from that local perspective, right? So Molusco talks about it from the perspective of Puerto Rico on the island. People in Colombia talk about it as it relates to how it relates to Colombia, right? And then in the U.S. market, the U.S. mainstream media in Spanish, it's hard for them to kind of incorporate it properly into their steez, because Univision and Telemundo are really like old media products, right? It's like that's your abuela's content, right? Whereas this is anything but that. This is young, this is cutting edge, this is urban, this is this is risque, this is hip hop, this is not Univision. This is not Don Francisco stuff. You know what I'm saying? So the old media model is really slow to kind of figure it out. I mean, if you ever watch these award shows, it's kind of ridiculous because you have these like people that you could tell are not connected to the movement. Whether they're Puerto Rican, they're just old and fuddy duddies, not even culturally, right? Compared to what these young people are producing, and then you have this new media in the United States, and I guess we're part of this, right? The Me Too's, you just go down the line, be Latina, and they're wonderful, and I love them. But for the most part, the people that produce that content are very young, which is fine. It makes sense. And they're not Puerto Rican, and they're not even, they tend to be like South, they're not Puerto Rican. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of silly to say that. There's nothing wrong with that. But my point is that I think what we can provide in commentary in that Latino pop culture space is the perspective of, I guess, for lack of a better term, New York Puerto Ricans, even though I'm a fully Puerto Rican, but like Puerto Ricans that that understand the cultural impact of New York Puerto Rican culture, creating, being being what sort of birthed what we think of as salsa, even though, I know it comes from Black Cuban rhythms, but you know what I'm saying. And then similarly, kind of our generation being babies and being part of the hip hop culture, right? And being part of that history on some level, being part of things like freestyle, being part of, and now seeing how música urbana from the island and from Latin America, Panama, Colombia, what have you, Dominican Republic, how that's impacting our Latino culture here and the parallels. And that's one of the things I want us to do here on this show is kind of give, and us being a little older and kind of remembering, kind of like when people would talk about, is hip hop a fad? I know a few of y'all remember that. I was small, but I remember that. I remember when hip hop really didn't, in essence, exist in music. I know it sounds like a crazy thing, but it's true. When I was a kid, it was, it was still brewing. It was still a local. It was still in the late 70s. It was a local music scene in New York. That's what it was. It wasn't a national music thing till the early 80s. So, and it took till like the mid 80s for it to really solidify itself. So I think just kind of giving people a perspective of how this fits into that historical arc, because in essence, the salseros are, in many ways, paved the way in the model of how this works, right? So like Combo and Hector Lavoe and Willie Colon and all those people, in the same way the reggaeton movement is, started amongst Puerto Ricans or was led by Puerto Ricans. And then that was more New York flavored at the time. But the bottom line is that it didn't become a global movement in the Latin American movement wasn't for the Colombians and the South Americans, like we saw here, where reggaeton was sort of petering out 10, 15 years ago, and the Colombians brought it back and have their own artists and their own spin on it, but are really kind of from the fan perspective of really the fan base that really kind of drove it to the next level, just because, Puerto Rico's only so big. And the Dominicans have played a big role in that too, and that's why Bad Bunny was so smart to be so Dominican friendly with his music and a lot of them are, and well, all of them, many of them are Farruko, because in many ways the Dominicans are like the Apollo of the movement, because you start in Puerto Rico, then you kind of, if you don't get big in DR after that, odds are you're not getting to Colombia and these other places. And then the Dominican New York fan base has to be with you, because younger Dominicans really are the taste masters of New York culture and music, and on the Latino side, right? So, Dominicans play a really important role, and they have their own artists too, and Dembo and all that. So it's interesting. So I want to keep us a hand in that as well. So I hope people are open to that and want to hear that. And there's other stuff you want to hear. We're going to do the personal development stuff, and I think there's some really exciting things we can do, and bring a lot of really good people to the table. I really appreciate the people hanging, watching. Makes me feel good that anyone wants to hear what I have to say anymore. And I wish I could tell you I had all the answers. That next week we're gonna have this incredible studio, and we're gonna have all these great people, and that's gonna happen. But there's still a few things to figure out, I guess, is kind of the bottom line. And at some point, I'm probably going to solicit all y'all to help me figure this out, because, I know how I want to do it, and I do it every day in my head. So I appreciate letting me spit it out here on these channels. If you're watching and you haven't put a comment, please let me know you're here, and I'll put your comment on here. Again, Teresa, Grace, Eliana, Angel was on earlier. Jersey Rican was on the IG. Chrissy was on the IG. I really appreciate you watching. And there was a Phoenix guy. I don't know if that guy was real or not. That was a weird one. But nevertheless, I appreciate y'all watching. And let me know if you like this Charlie Rose thing. I don't know. Maybe that's just simple. I don't know. Maybe it's the simple way to do it. I don't know. It's thinning. It's thinning. The black. I like it. And we'll talk about my fitness stuff, which is a roller coaster, but at least I'm moving, you know? So thank you all for watching. We'll see where this goes, but it's going somewhere. And it means a lot to me. Because I think the biggest thing is, I mean, look, we all have egos. I mean, I think most people, if you ask them, hey, would you want to do something like this? I think it's cool. But most people don't know how to do it. Maybe they're not even that but the idea of it's pretty cool, right? So, I've gotten a little bit of taste of it, and it's pretty intoxicating. I ain't gonna lie. Because if you've known me for any period of time, I love to talk. But at the end of the day, I think there's some talent here. And, I don't think y'all would be watching for this period of time. I don't think the MSNBC producer would have said I did great. I don't think that the collaborators I've had would agree to collaborate with me. They didn't think there was some talent here. So I think we have something to say. And the biggest fear I have is that I waste the talent and I don't get it out there. And again, I don't have all the answers. I'm not the best, most charismatic person, the best looking person or anything like that. Pero we have because of our unique upbringing and combination of experiences and the people we can bring to the table, we definitely have something here. No question in my mind. And I don't think I realize, and I don't think y'all realize what potential this will lead to. And so when I was sick, in the moments I don't feel like I have the energy to have done something like this, because there's a lot of days I could be talking at 10:30, 10:45 at night doing this. Yeah, it upsets me, just general frustration and feeling I'm getting old and sicky, and that sucks. Pero the biggest frustration is not feeling like I'll be able to do this the way I want to do it. That's what scares me. That's what frustrates me. That's what pisses me off. When it crosses my mind, like, is it not going to happen? I guess I can't guarantee it, right? Because at the end of the day, it ain't my call. But I don't think I would have been given these gifts and this desire to do it as bad as I do for no reason, but to tease me, para joder. I don't think so. So, we're going to keep moving. We're going to keep 1 foot forward. Again, I appreciate it. If anyone hasn't chimed in, please let me know you're here. Put a comment. I could holler at you. And I appreciate y'all watching. Y'all have a wonderful evening. I'll be back here soon. I'm going to be playing with this. And if y'all want to jump on an IG Live with me, or y'all want to jump on, let me know, and we'll just BS. I'm kind of getting my sea legs back. So it'd be nice to set up some chats with y'all. Not too pressure, Just, hey, we'll just kick it for a minute. So y'all have a wonderful night, okay? God bless. Let me end it actually with these funny videos I got. I got some great best of moments. I'm sure all of y'all watched everything we've ever done. But if you haven't, just in case, here's some stuff, including, I'm going to end it with this one, including when one of the world's great salseros expressed their love for me. Y'all have a good night. When you came out in the scene, that was really our generation contributing to the culture and history of salsa was so important to me. And, you were such a big part of that. And then to meet you and find out you're a real person and you're a class act in every way, and actually then really care about things, and we connected on that level around society and the world. So you've been such a great representation. I remember when you went on Christina's show as a young guy, and most of the Eureka's, we speak Spanish, but not that good, and they were floored how good your Spanish was.
The world, you got got Joe Budden, you got
Nori.
Nori.
In Miami. Yeah.
Y la gente no sabe que es boricua. You know, I love you for that, Ray, because you're just as much hip hop as you are Latin,